I'm Bill Wilt of Assured Research. Thanks so much for joining this quick hit video, in which we're going to look at one topic within an Assured report that was just released recently. The topic is inflation, and specifically economic inflation as pertains to liability claims. So let's mentally set aside social inflation, which we don't think is going to get much better or change a whole lot in 2025. But economic inflation as pertains to liability claims, that seems to be inflecting favorably. Head fake or sustainable in 2025, we'll have to see, but happy to share with you what we have here. I'll just mention before I click over to the slides that if you're a subscriber, thanks so much for your interest in this and our work on an ongoing basis. If you're not a subscriber, you find this interesting, suggest that you go visit our website, learn more about us there, and reach out. We'd be happy to start you on a free trial to our work. So let me jump into this, share the screen, and we will cover in very short order economic inflation as pertains to liability claims. So hopefully you're seeing the whole screen there. There are really three major components. Medical on the left, medical costs, wage replacement for somebody who's injured. Again, be thinking accident, bodily injury claims, and then of course legal costs. There are more subcomponents. We'd absolutely always suggest that actuaries and underwriters, claims professionals, finance professionals are talking. The idea here is that you can use external indices to build a reasonable representation of the cost drivers of your bodily injury claims. And then you can compare that to what's happening in your insurance data. And of course, these are objective, verifiable, and released regularly. So let's look at medical costs on the left-hand side, which might be somewhere between 40 and 60% of the typical liability claim economic component. It's been rising since the pandemic with some volatility. That's the black lines are the 95% confidence intervals. Moving average is the red line. But noticeably, and particularly these last few months of 2024, medical costs have been decelerating fairly rapidly. I'm going to cover that on the next slide. Wage replacement for those who've been injured, a common element of a bodily injury award or settlement. That's been really steadily declining. That's very much the focus of the Federal Reserve. You see the weights there, maybe somewhere between 20 and 50% of typical bodily injury award. And it's most recently, its last reading in 2024, I think was 3.6%. So wage pressure is really coming off. The opposite is true of legal costs. Look at that. Really rapid rise after the pandemic, right out of the gate after the pandemic, and it seems to be sticking in the 7 to 7.5% range. This is a specific series focused on civil liability, so you can really drill down with the thousands, tens of thousands of PPI series. If we focus on the medical costs, now the medical costs on the previous slide was in turn a blend of a whole host of different PPI series. It was not the medical CPI. Significant components are shown here. What's that, 20, 40, 80% of what goes into that is shown here. Physician costs, private physician costs, the blue line, inflation pressures there have been really modest, just 1%, averaging 1% in 2024. Outpatient and ambulatory surgery centers, the red line, they were experiencing upward pressure into the 4.5%, 5% range, but that's been coming off in 2024, again, for ambulatory surgery centers. When we look at hospitals, has a higher mix, higher weight in this blend than it would, say, for workers' compensation claims, because these tend to be typically fairly violent accidents that we're talking about here, especially auto accidents. That's the black line, and you see too pressures there, a fair amount of volatility. But in the last couple of months, in particular of 2024, those pressures have come off. Within the hospitals, we give a weighting to specialty hospitals, and the inflation readings there have actually been outright negative these last couple of months. Head fake or sustainable into 2025, don't know. But the good news is when you put all these together and weight them as we've done here in the upper right, 38% wage, 50 medical, 12 legal. Your company's kind of custom blend might be different. You see a fairly stable series. Look at that volatility, the way it ballooned out after the pandemic has really come in, and you get a weighting around 3.5 to 4%. So that feels like a pretty reasonable range for the economic inflationary pressures on liability claims. The good news is it might be coming off, and we'll see if that's sustainable into 2025. So again, we thank you for signing into this, and wish you a really good day, and reach out if we can be helpful, or if you'd like a trial to our work. Thanks again.